Hey everyone, I'm Aaron Lycourt, Chief RSO at the gun range in Killeen, and this is Jack Greenwell, GM and Armor.
Today we're going to be talking about firearm safety. We're going to start with 3 main safety rules, and then we're going to go into some other safety rules, and at the end we'll just have some candid conversation about some common gun safety pro tips and anything we can do to keep the average shooter that comes into our range safer. Stick with us as we go over these important safety tips and rules. All right, we're here talking today about firearm safety. Obviously very important. We're going to be talking about some basic handgun rules for use and storage. The first 3 we're going to talk about are going to be kind of the big 3. Once we get through those, we'll go through some others, and we'll have some conversation at the end about some other safety tips from our experience over the years, both at the gun range and through our military careers, as we are both military veterans. So the first one being, we'll jump right into it, keep the gun pointed in a safe direction. And by that we mean anytime we're holding this, we are going to imagine there is a red hot laser pointed out the end of this gun, and anything we cross is getting cut with it. So we're going to, obviously I'm not going to point it at myself, I'm not going to point it at my friend. No matter how many times we've checked to make sure it's unloaded, we're just going to assume that it is loaded. And
Number 2, keep your finger off the trigger. That is the biggest thing that a lot of people do. That's a huge mistake. That for some reason, the first thing they do is when they grab a gun, immediately they put their finger in there and just don't even think twice about it. The other times they do it is when they reload. Worst thing you do. Don't reload with you're asking for a negligent discharge.
So, and what we're talking about here is we want to keep our finger completely out of the trigger guard, up high on the frame or all the way down below. And we'll go into depth more on that a little bit later here. The last one, keep the gun unloaded until you're ready to use it. And we're talking about completely cleared and empty. If you're unfamiliar with how to do that, Aaron, if you could hand me that magazine, please.
Empty?
Yep, we have an empty magazine, we have an empty gun. Say if I walked up on this firearm and I do not know that this is an empty gun. I look at this gun, I know that Glock does have the loaded chamber indicating extractor, but we're not going to trust that because you never know.
Things fail.
Yeah, things, safeties fail. So we are the final safety in all cases. So the first thing I'm going to do if I was going to clear this weapon, I'm going to hit our magazine release, drop the magazine. With my finger out of the trigger guard still, I'm going to pull the slide to the rear. In this case, I'm going to hold my thumb on the slide lock in the upward position to lock this to the rear. This allows us to visually inspect the chamber very easily. It also allows anyone watching to look at this and see that this is a cleared weapon very easily without having to touch it, handle it, anything like that. But again, throughout the entire process, we're going to keep our finger off the trigger. So those are the 3 big gun safety rules. The big reason that I teach those rules over and over and over again is you could actually mess up on 2 out of 3 of those and still not hurt or kill anyone. Obviously, I'm not advocating that you forget any of the safety rules at any time, but for someone to get injured or killed, all 3 safety rules have to be broken at the same time. If you have a loaded firearm, you have your finger on the trigger, you have a negligent discharge, but it was pointed in a safe direction, it's embarrassing. There's a very real possibility you're going to be charged with a crime if it's in certain areas, but no one got hurt or killed. You have a gun pointed in an unsafe direction, it's completely unloaded, and you have your finger on the trigger. As long as you have truly maintained that firearm is unloaded, yes, you have committed a kind of a safety faux pas. It's embarrassing. All the guys that are experienced with firearms and firearm safety are probably going to look at you funny, but you didn't kill anybody. So all of these rules work together as kind of a multi-layer safety net to keep anything from happening, whether or not you're on the range or not on the range. Aaron, did you want to go ahead and add?
I mean, I've seen all these rules broken in every combination possible, especially in competition. A lot of guys actually will try to mag change with the finger in the trigger, and they'll have a negligent discharge as they're changing mags. Definitely get disqualified, definitely an embarrassing moment, but also take it as a learning moment. Don't do it again. Always try to avoid, honestly, if you're having trouble remembering them, just don't point a loaded gun anywhere. Just keep it on the table and have somebody teach you.
These are really a great set of rules to over and over and over again recite them in your head, look them over, have a postcard in your house or in your wallet. These are three rules that anyone who works here at the range should be able to recite all three of those safety rules very easily. It's part of our range safety officer course. I know I'm a chief range safety officer. Aaron is the chief range safety officer for the range. So we instruct range safety officers. These are three rules that everyone on the range is responsible for. So at any time you're here, obviously you're going to be asked to follow those rules, and they are part of our policy here at the gun range.
If along with those big ones, there's also some kind of other rules that are you'd figure that'd be more common sense, kind of like making sure the downrange is unoccupied. Sometimes depending on what's going on, the competition or some kind of classes, there might be targets that you do have to go put pasties on. Don't load up, don't unholster, don't do anything until the RO on staff says something to make ready, to make hot, and he also has already cleared the range of all personnel, so nobody's in that line of danger.
So he brought up one that's make sure the downrange area is unoccupied. That's more of a on the range kind of a situation. That's not going to occur at home because you're not going to be shooting in your house. Another one is know your target and what's beyond it. This is kind of a rule that applies both to being at the range safely, but it also applies to a defensive situation. Just because your attacker is a viable threat, if you're firing in self-defense, that doesn't mean that that's the only thing you need to consider. You need to consider what's behind or in front of that attacker, because the liability follows the bullet, as my instructor used to tell me. Liability follows the bullet. Intent is irrelevant at that point. So if you injure or kill somebody because you didn't know what the foreground and background of that target was, you are still liable for any damage that bullet creates.
Honestly, a really good one, and it's super simple. You'd think people wouldn't mess it up, is the right caliber for the right gun.
Yes.
That alone causes dangers where the gun could unexpectedly maybe blow up in your hands or cause a malfunction in the gun, which actually leads to another safety thing that I recommend at any range, is if you do have a malfunction where the round is stuck in the chamber and you can't get it out, just leave the gun on the table, then come out to get either the armor or another RO. Never bring the loaded gun outside of their range, even if it's jammed, slide lock open, everything, because things can happen.
Absolutely. And that also goes towards another one of the rules we're talking about is be sure the gun is safe to operate. Most times if you go to any normal gun store, you purchase a firearm, you purchase correct ammunition, you're probably already safe to fire that weapon.
It's those older guns that get you.
Exactly. So any firearm that you inherit, maybe you bought it used at a pawn shop, you got it from a friend, maybe you got it from some other avenue of finding a used firearm. There are gun shows. There's plenty of reasons to buy a used firearm. I buy most of my firearms used, so it's absolutely a great idea. It can save you a lot of money. But if you are absolutely, or if you're not absolutely sure that that firearm is safe to shoot, you really should either go to that next level of inspection. If you're not comfortable doing that, bring it to someone who has the expertise to inspect that firearm. We here at the gun range offer a free safety inspection on any firearm. That's a field strip and safety check. Now, if we get into that and we find something that needs further attention or further inspection, we'll talk to you about the price of that before we move on. But a initial safety check is always free here.
And we do have certified Glock armors here, SIG armors, M&P armors. So
yes, absolutely. There's no excuse to not be sure. Especially if you're going to be shooting here, we want to know that you're safe in there as well. So helps put us at ease having the chance to inspect your firearm, and also gives us a chance to just see a cool gun. We're always
That is
down
true.
to see it. We're always down to see a new gun. Obviously, this is written into our policy. Onto the next safety rule is wear eye and ear protection as appropriate. In a self-defense scenario, obviously, you're not going to walk around wearing earplugs. But whenever you're at the gun range, especially an indoor gun range, you need to be wearing hearing and eye protection. Eye protection is obvious. It's pretty hard to sell that short. If you do wear prescription glasses like I'm wearing right now, talk to your doctor, your eye doctor, about what kind of lenses would be preferable for you. A polycarbonate lens is an excellent starting point. You can upgrade to an ANSI rated prescription lens like what I have in here now, and that's something that's available for relatively inexpensive whenever you're getting a new set of lenses or a new set of frames.
And as far as ear pro, always wear some kind of ear pro. Preferably indoors. I like to double up. I have my custom molds, and then I use my muffs. When you go into an indoor range, a bullet coming out of the barrel, you're thinking of about 140 decibels. The ears are only supposed to take about 90. So once you're in an indoor range, it actually reverberates off the walls and comes back, almost doubling it. So I would recommend 2 layers of ear pro when in an indoor range.
Absolutely. And pay attention to the decibel reduction rating, commonly referred to as the NRR. It's the noise reduction rating. Whenever you buy hearing protection, it's going to have it printed on the packaging. Very important point to add, though, is that NRR rating is assuming that you are using the hearing protection as it is designed. So follow the directions. If you're not sure, consult one of the range safety officers here at the gun range. We'd be glad to help you. Hopefully this next one is completely irrelevant. Hopefully nobody is doing this, but never use alcohol or drugs before or while shooting. And obviously we have to include in here that you should be aware of any side effects you may have from your prescription medications. Whenever you're taking anything into your body, you really want to know the result of that. The most common one is alcohol.
Just like driving.
Yep, exactly. You're handling something that in the proper hands with the proper handling is very safe, and is a lot of fun. We do a lot of shooting here. We love it. And under the proper conditions, it is a very safe sport to be in. Alcohol is never part of the correct conditions. So be completely coherent and have a clear mind whenever you go to pick up any firearm. So
be safe, go shoot, and have a great time.
Well, and actually, one last point.
What's that?
Last one. Unattended guns should not be accessible to unauthorized persons. If you take an LTC course here in the state of Texas, this is harped on really hard. They're pushing for safe storage of firearms more and more and more these days. And until we have years and years and years go by without a child or other unauthorized person gaining access to a firearm, they're going to continue to harp on that. So obviously, if you have a safe, use your safe properly, secure your firearms. If you don't have a safe, have some other plan to secure your firearms. know your household. If you have 3 kids running around, you need to have a different plan for security than, say, someone like me who has no children. So no matter what you're doing, you need to have a plan and have a backup plan for, say, families in town. So have a backup plan, execute your plan, and keep those firearms in the hands of only people who are trained and authorized to be handling them. So I know we've talked a lot about the different safety rules. What I'll do is I'm just going to do a quick run through of the safety rules again, just to give you a quick list out, and then we'll roll into some final notes and we'll get out of here. First one, the big 3. Keep the gun pointing in the safe direction. I'll demonstrate. We're never going to be pointing this at a person. The kind of the go-to is pointing it down. Keep your finger off the trigger until ready to use. Finger outside of the trigger guard, either up high on the frame or down below the trigger guard. Maintain that completely safe. Keep the gun unloaded, ready to use. This one's locked to the rear already. No magazine, no ammunition in the magazine. So here I'll do kind of a quick fire. We're going to go through the other 8 safety rules. Know the target and what is beyond it. Make sure the downrange area is unoccupied. Be sure your firearm is safe to operate. Be thoroughly familiar with how the gun operates. Use only correct ammunition for your gun, being the caliber that's stamped on your barrel or your firearm particularly. Wear eye and ear protection as appropriate. Never use alcohol or drugs while shooting, to include prescription drugs if you have a side effect that may affect you. Unattended guns should not be accessible to unauthorized persons, especially children. So with that, we're going to, a few final notes. We didn't harp on be thoroughly familiar with, but whenever you buy a firearm, it's a great idea to spend a few hours at the range, familiarize yourself with that firearm, know how to take it down, load, unload, all that. Aaron, go ahead and.
My biggest thing is seeing people take pictures on the range. Just a lot of times that breaks a multiple ton of rules. People usually have it loaded. People are pointing in the wrong direction. Indoor ranges generally aren't the place to take Gucci photos for Instagram or Facebook. Generally, those happen at outdoor range, especially where people are competing. There's a bigger area of safe zone. And the second one that always kills me is people buying the wrong ammo and shooting the wrong ammo out of the wrong gun. Yeah. A multitude of things can go wrong with that. So make sure you're looking at your barrel, know your gun, and know what it needs to feed. Yeah,
and that's not to say we don't allow or we don't want people taking pictures, but make sure that if you're going to take pictures, you need to be following all of the safety rules in all of those pictures. So anyone that's experienced with firearms, every time we see something on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and somebody's doing something unsafe, scroll down into the comments. You usually see us. Oh, what are you doing? You're crazy. Don't do that. So anything you share on your social media, you kind of want it to look presentable, smart. So just be aware of what you're putting out there, and also be safe while you're here at the range. So with that, I think we're just about good. If you ever have any questions, again, Aaron is the Chief Range Safety Officer here at the gun range. We do have other certified NRA Chief Range Safety Officers, but Aaron is the chief of the range. Feel free to ask any range safety officer here any questions. We'd be glad to help you out.